Welcome to The State of Us.
Beyond mainstream cable news and party lines, with a millennial and a boomer, The State of Us pushes past the noise and uncovers all the issues that matter.
Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
Escaping the trap of efficiency. The trap of efficiency? What do we mean? Well, it has to do with finding some peace of mind. The more productive we are, in fact, the more pressure we feel. It's time to break the cycle. How do we do that? And keep in mind, folks, this is coming from two people that advocate all that hard work all the time. So it'll be interesting conversation. We're also going to look at lessons from a summer digging ditches. The author learned teamwork, pacing, and most important, the value of education. But of course, a conversation on escaping the trap of efficiency and digging ditches just simply couldn't be complete without
True Chat senior historian and an educator of more than 30 years. Here is your friendly redneck liberal, Lance Jackson.
Well, I'm not sure that escaping the efficiency trap has anything to do with devaluing hard work.
Oh,
we'll get into that discussion. Our word of the day today is a fun one, folks. Just gonna have some fun today. The word is rouleau, R-O-U-L-E-A-U, 2 syllables. It is a noun, rouleau. It is a small roll of something, especially a roll of coins, generally the same denomination, stacked in a paper wrapper. And yours truly has many of those hidden around the house.
of course.
Pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, even $50. So I've got some rouleaus that if PayPal goes down, I can still spend cash. When the computer goes down at Taco Bell and they say, "We're sorry, sir, all we can do is accept cash," I'm like, I got you covered.
For as long as cash exists anyway.
I've got it. That's right. My brother actually texted me back when they were complaining that there was a coin shortage. He said, "You need to get rid of some of yours because you're causing problems for the rest of the country."
That's right. Yep. I was just thinking about that. I read about that the other day. There's people that are having a hard time getting their laundry done because they can't find quarters anywhere.
See me. I'll sell them to you for 50 cents a piece.
Yep.
Send me a Venmo and I'll send you some quarters.
Yeah.
So yeah, send me a $20 on Venmo and I'll give you a $10 roll of quarters.
What a deal.
Yeah.
Is shipping included in that or?
No.
Okay. It's extra.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So this first article, very interesting. It caught my attention. It's actually an essay in the Wall Street Journal, and it's an excerpt from a book that this author recently released. And the book is called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. And the reason that it caught our attention was because, as Lance kind of hinted at there, I think there's a lot of times that people look at efficiency, hard work, and peace of mind as all mutually exclusive things. In other words, this basic idea that, right, if I work hard enough, I'll be efficient enough, and then I'll be satisfied because I'll get everything done that I need to get done. And the whole purpose of this piece is basically to debunk the notion that those three things are connected. And they are connected, but they're connected because we force them to be connected. They don't have to be. The article explains, quote, that if you're working 2 minimum wage jobs to put food in your children's stomachs, there's a good chance that you'll feel overstretched. But if you're better off, you'll find yourself feeling overstretched for reasons that seem to you no less compelling, because you have a nicer house with higher mortgage payments, or because the demands of your interesting, well-paid job conflict with your longing to spend time with your aging parents, or to be more involved in your children's lives, or to dedicate your life to fighting climate change. The problem with trying to make time for everything that feels important is that you definitely never will. The reason isn't that you haven't discovered the right time management tricks or applied sufficient effort, or that you need to start getting up earlier, or that you're generally useless. It's that the underlying assumption is unwarranted. There's no reason to believe that you'll ever feel, quote, on top of things or make time for everything that matters simply by getting more done.
I find myself with this all the time. But as I've gotten older, I've learned to realize that, okay, do the things that you need to do to survive. And that's a question that you have. And then you have to self-reflect, right? And you say, well, what do you mean? Well, you need to reflect upon what is important. Have you talked to your sister in the last 2 weeks? Well, make time and make that call. Is that really, is that more important than getting that document done for work? Because the author points out, what is the most important thing to do? You're not going to get everything done. And as they talk about too, right? And the author says, if you're really efficient, you get everything done, then what do? Well, you find more things to do. You don't sit back and enjoy. So you need to find this balance, right? This, as my daughter calls it, the work-life balance. That because there is something, I get a good feeling for accomplishing something and getting something done. But at the same time, I'm not any good to anybody if I don't take time to do the things that I enjoy or that I feel are just personally important. So you need to find that balance. And the goal can't be, I'm going to get everything done so I can lay down in the hammock on Sunday afternoon because everything's done. No, you have to take that time so that you can be efficient in getting things done or get the things done that need to get done. You need to take time for yourself. And it's that balance that I think this article is trying to discuss with people. Because if you don't do that and you don't reflect on what is important to you, then you end up doing things that don't give you any sense of satisfaction.
Well, it's a difficult thing because as people, right, the notion is that there's the important things and then the things that aren't important, right? Or that are less important, right? They're important, but they're less important. For example, this is a good one. Me finding time to read, right? Finding time to read. It's this idea that, well, I have all these things I need to do. I ain't got time to read. No, you have time to read, but in order to read, you have to accept that you're not going to get everything done that you thought you were going to get done. And the real truth of it is, folks, and most of you that try to be efficient, hardworking people probably know this to be the fact, that you're going to set out and say, here's everything I'm going to do today. And at the end of the day, it's not all going to be done no matter what you did. It's not going to happen. You ain't going to get it all done because we all think that we can get more done than we can actually get done, and that doesn't matter whether you're a hard worker, not a hard worker. Pretty much everybody is a victim of this notion that, okay, I got 10 things I got to do today. Man, I only got 8 done. What happened? Well, it's not that you did something wrong. What you did wrong was assuming that you could get 10 things done when really you could only get 8, Well,
and then what do? You take that list and the 2 you didn't get done go to the top of the next day's list.
So now I got 12.
Now I have 12. And then you get to the end of the week and you've got 10 things that you didn't get done. And you think, well, I was a failure this week. So then I'm just going to sit around all weekend and feel sorry for myself and not do anything.
Or spend the whole weekend doing those tasks. And then the things that you had planned to do on the weekend, you didn't do. So then you feel bad because, well, I didn't take any time off and now I'm exhausted for the next week. And and so on it goes, right? Because the choices
you jump on the hamster wheel and you just keep spinning.
Exactly.
And you're never satisfied.
Well, and that's the thing from the article with digging ditches. I mean, I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but he points out that it taught him a different lesson about teamwork, which we'll discuss. But, this young guy, and he's out there digging ditches and he's next to this older guy and he's like, whoa, you got to slow down. You're going crazy here. And 2 things, you're going to wear yourself out, and also, when we get this one done, there's going to be another ditch, always. Right. There will always be.
If you get this task done, there's going to be another task.
Exactly.
Is the way it relates to our first article, right? Is that it doesn't matter how quickly you go through that pile of things on your desk. Tomorrow when you walk in, guess what? There'll be a new pile of things to work through on your desk.
Yep. The author in the article explains that, he worked as a tech worker, and he says, and so like the dutiful and efficient worker I was, I'd put my energy into clearing the decks, cranking through the smaller stuff to get it out of the way, only to discover that doing so took the whole day, that the decks filled up again overnight anyway, and that the moment for responding to an email from a friend had never arrived. And the point about the email to a friend is, And again, very relatable. I got this message from somebody, right? And I think, oh, okay, I got to set aside, I need time because I got to fully focus on this. So once I get some stuff done, I'll get to it, right? No, you won't. No, you won't. You're either going to make time for it and accept that you're going to put some other stuff off to get it done, or you're never going to get it done, And
So
that's
true.
a hard thing. I mean, keep in mind, folks, I will be the first to say that the people on this show telling you this are also some of the people that probably struggle with this the most, because it is a hard thing. And the author points this out. It flies counter to what so many of us have been trained, that the things go hand in hand. And I think that's an important point for us to make, Lance, is right. It doesn't mean that you quit getting things done.
Feel sorry for myself and not do anything.
Or spend the whole weekend doing those tasks, and then the things that you had planned to do on the weekend you didn't do. So then you feel bad because, well, I didn't take any time off and now I'm exhausted for the next week. And I mean, and so on it goes, right? Because the choices
You jump on the hamster wheel and you just keep spinning.
Exactly.
And you're never satisfied.
Well, and that's the thing from the article with digging ditches. I mean, I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but he points out that it taught him a different lesson about teamwork, which we'll discuss. But, this young guy, and he's out there digging ditches, and he's next to this older guy, and he's like, whoa, you got to slow down. You're going crazy here. And two things, you're going to wear yourself out, and also when we get this one done, there's going to be another ditch. Always. There will always be.
If you get this task done, there's going to be another task.
Exactly.
Is the way it relates to our first article, right? Is that it doesn't matter how quickly you go through that pile of things on your desk. Tomorrow when you walk in, guess what? There'll be a new pile of things to work through on your desk.
Yep. The author in the article explains that, he worked as a tech worker, and he says, and so like the dutiful and efficient worker I was, I'd put my energy into clearing the decks, cranking through the smaller stuff to get it out of the way, only to discover that doing so took the whole day, that the decks filled up again overnight anyway, and that the moment for responding to an email from a friend had never arrived. And the point about the email to a friend is, and again, very relatable, I got this message from somebody, right? And I think, oh, okay, I got to set aside, I need time because I got to fully focus on this. So once I get some stuff done, I'll get to it, right? No, you won't. No, you won't. You're either going to make time for it and accept that you're going to put some other stuff off to get it done, or you're never going to get it done, And that's a hard thing. I mean, keep in mind, folks, I will be the first to say that the people on this show telling you this are also some of the people that probably struggle with this the most, because it is a hard thing. And the author points this out. It flies counter to what so many of us have been trained, that the things go hand in hand. And I think that's an important point for us to make, Lance, is right. It doesn't mean that you quit getting things done. It means that you are more reasonable with yourself about what you're going to get done. And then lo and behold, you'll actually do a better job at getting the things done you planned, because you won't feel so stressed while doing those things, because it's like, oh man, I got to get through this because I got 8 other things to do today and there's no way I'm going to get them all done. So I got to hurry through this. And then you lose all of the value in doing that task anyway, right? If there was any joy to be had from it, you probably sapped it all out of there by going crazy about, I'm not getting enough done today.
What you have to get done next.
It's like, and it's never about the thing that you're doing. And I think that's a great point in the article is you're never going to find peace of mind by believing that once you get everything done, you'll be happy. It's not going to happen because you'll never get everything done. So you'll never get to that point that you want to be at. So the question is, do you live in the moment, or do you live hoping for something that can't happen, which is to get everything done?
So the question then that we have to address in the next segment is, well, then what is it that I do? How do I find that level of confidence and achievement and satisfaction if it's not getting all my tasks done? And the author addresses that as well.
Right. Yeah. It's okay. Well, I'm buying in, I've got this, I'm out there listening, and I have one of these struggles that Lance or Justin has with, we'll just fit more in and then everything will be fine. So, but what do I do, right? When we've identified it, we've said, well, yeah, it sounds good, but how do we get out of this? Do I need to buy a fancy notebook to manage my time more efficiently? Do I need to write down lists? Do I need to block my days into 15-minute segments? What's the trick? Well, to find out, keep it here on The State of Us. We'll be right back.
We are The State of Us. Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
Do you struggle with the efficiency trap? That is, the rendering yourself more efficient either by implementing various productivity techniques or by driving yourself harder won't generally result in the feeling of having enough time, because all else being equal, the demands will increase to offset any benefits. Far from getting things done, you'll be creating new things to do. That is the efficiency trap. Are you a victim of that? If so, send us an email. podcast@thestateofus.org. podcast@thestateofus.org. We'd like to hear from you. Please send us an email. And if you don't have that problem, if you're not a victim of the efficiency trap, why not? How have you avoided being in that situation? We would like to know. I think there's a lot of good points in the article, Lance, but to what you left off with is, well, where do you go from here, right? What do you do to move past it? So what do you do? I mean, how do we get to the other side of this?
Well, I'll start with, here's what the author says. He said, the realization that this had been a useless strategy for attaining peace of mind brought me some immediate peace of mind. I think we need to, as you said, realize that this is what we're doing and then try to readjust our thinking. And that is that buying that notebook or getting that, the old school in basket, out basket, and making one smaller than the other and writing lists and all those kinds of things, that can make you more efficient, but that you can't let that determine your happiness and make you think that you're always going to get on top of things. You have to come to the understanding, in my opinion, that you're not going to get there, and enjoy the task that you're doing while you're doing it, and prioritize and say, okay, these have to be done so I can get paid, or these have to be done because this is a safety issue for me and for others around me. But then give yourself that time for reading, or for giving yourself 20 minutes to play a video game, or to sit down and watch an hour of the ball game, or to listen to some music that you enjoy. And you have to give yourself that time of day. I know that there are people that I envy who make sure they go and exercise every day, because that they know that they're more efficient, their mind is clear, they feel better, they're healthier because they go exercise. So that is one thing that they don't give up. It's like, okay, I may not make this meeting, I may be late to this, I might not get to the grocery store, but I will not take away from my exercise time because it makes me feel better as a person. And then when I am working on those other tasks, I'm more efficient. And I think that's what we need to do. Find that thing that's important for us to be able to be in a positive mindset on a daily basis, and make sure we get that in. Find a time to do that. Even if that time adjusts. Maybe on Mondays you need to do it in the morning, but on Wednesdays your schedule is such, well, I need to do that in the evening. Doesn't matter when you do it, but hold yourself accountable for doing those things on a daily basis that make you feel good. And then give yourself credit for what you get done. Don't say, to your point, I only got 8 out of the 10 things done on my list. Look back and say, wow, I got 8 things done today. And you say, well, that's so easy. That's so simple. Okay. Sometimes the answers are that simple, right? Flip it. It's that glass of water thing. If I put water in a glass and I fill it up to the middle, when you look at it, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty?
Am I focused on the things I didn't do or the things that I did?
Exactly. You sit back and say, wow, look at all I got done today. Not, oh my gosh, I still got more to do. No, look at what I got done.
there will always be
something else,
more to do.
So, I mean, I think those, to me,
you don't
those
ever
are the
have
keys.
to worry about there being more to do, right? Because, and it is crazy because when you think about it, it's like, it's so simple. Think about the logic of, I'm worried about all, what there is to do. And it's like, why? There's always more to do. I don't care if you're retired, if you're working full time, if you're working 2 jobs, if you got kids, if you don't, there is always more to do, right? And no amount of stressing over more to do does anything about the fact that there is more to do. And again, I can't say this enough, this is all very easy to say. As the author points out, it's a whole other thing to rework, and that's part of what we're talking about, the way that we are generally as a society trained to approach these things, right? But I think one of the things that can help Lance is being reminded that people make money off of this, right?
Sure.
The author says entire industries now thrive on the promise of helping us cope with having an overwhelming amount to do by eliminating or accelerating tedious and time-consuming chores. But the result, in an irony that shouldn't be too surprising by now, is that life gets subtly worse. It works like this. In startup jargon, the way to make a fortune in Silicon Valley is to identify a pain point, one of the small annoyances resulting from the friction of daily life, and then to offer a way to circumvent it. And you might be thinking about, well, I've heard of efficiency planners and this kind of stuff, but even more so, what about Uber? It eliminates the pain of having to track down a number for your local taxi company and call it, or trying to hail a cab in the street. And digital wallet apps like Apple Pay remove the pain of having to reach into your bag for your physical wallet, right? The food delivery service, Seamless, has even run advertisements, tongue-in-cheek ones, but still boasting that it lets you avoid the agony of talking to a flesh and blood restaurant worker. The author goes on to point out, it's true that everything runs more smoothly this way, but smoothness, it turns out, is a dubious virtue, since it's often the unsmooth textures of life that make it livable. Your loyalty to your local taxi firm is one of those delicate social threads that, multiplied thousands of times, bind a neighborhood together. Your interactions with the woman who runs the nearby Chinese takeout might feel insignificant, but they help make yours the kind of area where people still talk to one another, where tech-induced loneliness doesn't yet reign supreme. As for Apple Pay, I like a little friction when I buy something, since it marginally increases the chances that I'll resist a pointless purchase. Sound like something, folks, that you've heard before from the friendly redneck liberal, right? We've talked about this. All of these things are sold with the promise of making life better for you. What most of them do is make money for somebody else and generally leave you worse off. Now, I've used wireless payment systems. I've used Uber. I'm not saying that those things are all bad, but the important thing is to remember the motivation, right, behind Uber, the motivation behind Apple Pay was not, we're going to do this great service to society by making everything smoother. It was, we're going to make money by capitalizing on people's need to believe that they can be sold something that will make them more efficient and therefore happy.
You know, I'm just sitting here as you read all that, and it's talking about, or in a sense to me, what I hear is we're losing a sense of community, is that we're making things so easy, we're not in contact with others. And I think the word that is coming to mind to me is sacrifice, is that when I'm happy, as I stop and think about this, is when I've sacrificed something for me to do something for someone else, that brings a lot of joy into my life. And all the things that you're talking about are taking away that sacrificing piece. I'm going to make it easier. We're going to do this, and this is going to make it easier for you to do this. And you're not going to have to interact with another human beings to do this. And so there's no sacrifice involved anymore. And then people are unhappy. People are anxious. There's no trust because there seems to be no sacrifice in the world anymore. The article points out that because you don't have to wait in line to get your food, now you don't want to wait in line to vote. Nobody wants to make this sacrifice. And as I think about it, when I feel the best about myself is when I've done something for somebody else without any expectation of anything in return. That's when I walk away and I'm like, man, I had a good day. I helped Joey and I helped Steve and I helped Susan and I helped, Joanne and whatever. I helped these people. Wow, I feel good about myself today. I don't feel good when I say, well, I got this done, this done, this done, this done. I don't feel good. I feel good when I've helped others. And when you help others, that's a sacrifice because you're putting the needs of others in front of your own. And that's what I'm hearing with this, that if you want to be happy, then we need to sacrifice.
Well, we've talked about it's well documented, right? And we're seeing it. I mean, part of the exodus from some of the cities to smaller communities is because particularly during times of challenge, like for example, a pandemic, right? The desire to feel a sense of connection and be able to manage the extent of that connection, which are uniquely possible when you live in areas that you have access to people but don't have to see people. That kind of balance is not a great word. We need a better one because it indicates this idea, Lance, right, that these things are equal. And that's not what I mean by that. It creates a dynamic maybe that is healthier for people because we go through those ebbs and flows. Some people need to see a lot of people. Some people need to see very few people, but everybody goes through those cycles of needing different things. And that's part of where I think we know it's kind of like that thing of, I always remember back to this. I was, probably 14 and for whatever reason, it was like, man, I just really am like wanting to eat a lot of eggs right now for some reason, just eating eggs. And it's like, why? Well, I found out it's because I had some, minerals and vitamins that I was low on. And lo and behold, my body was craving something that satisfied part of its need. And here we are, and nobody questions that. I mean, we go to the doctor. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Of course your body's telling you that, hey, you need this thing, so go get it, And we resist that by believing that the answer is convincing ourselves that, well, I need to just be more efficient. Because if I was more efficient, then everything would be better. And that's not what your body is telling you is going to work for you. Efficiency won't lead to happiness. Now, working hard on the things you decide to do, that can be satisfying because you feel like you did a good job at the things you've chosen to do. And I think those are misnomers about our society that we too frequently tie together, right? Is this idea that working hard also has to mean that you're efficient and that you're increasing efficiency. Because it's not that being efficient is bad, but it's deciding that efficiency and happiness are tied together, right? And that's, I think, what the article is arriving at, is this idea that I'll just be happy if I'm efficient. And you'll never be happy that way. I don't know anybody that is. And that's to Lance's point. You'll be happy in the things that you're choosing to do. And if you do them efficiently, that's a nice bonus. But the efficiency itself isn't going to arrive at that. And I just wrote in the side of the margin, I think it's ultra important, is time always wins, right? We've heard it in lots of different ways, but this article is a perfect demonstration. You can never beat time. You can't. We all will lose and succumb to time. And it's just a question of whether or not we look at it as a battle with time or whether we're going to choose, right, to get the most happiness from the time that we have. And that's, I think, one of those, again, a lot easier said than done, because the article points out kind of in jest that, some people are going to think you're crazy, obviously, if, you swear off email and start sending old-fashioned letters and, you get rid of all your credit cards and you only pay in cash, and you don't have a cell phone or a landline because people got to mail you something if they want to get a hold of you. And I mean, you do any one of those things and it's like, people deal with intricacies, but at the same time, there's a practicality to, you can't swear off everything that's made society more smooth, but you can be more selective about, why am I choosing this route, right? Am I using Apple Pay because it really appreciably helps me or makes me happy, or am I using it because I'm convinced that it's somehow going to save me time, which will make me happy? It's that motivation thing we talked about. Speaking of motivation, Lance, digging ditches. That takes some motivation. And it's interesting the things that spending a summer digging ditches might motivate you to do differently. What can you learn from digging a ditch? We're going to find out. Keep it here on The State of Us. We'll be right back.
We are The State of Us. Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
So Lance, you chose this article. It's called Lessons from a Summer Digging Ditches. Are you just like a admirer of people that dig ditches, or what was the motivation behind this article here? I mean, everybody can appreciate a good ditch, but
No. What caught my attention was, first of all, the author is Mr. Fay Vincent, who was a college professor, but is probably best known as the commissioner of baseball from 1989 to 1992. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what does he have to say about digging ditches? And as he talks about it, it was a summer job that he had and the things he learned from that job. And I could connect because my ditch digging job was hanging aluminum siding with a 40-year-old man who had 5 children. And I made money. Oh man, I met him at church and he offered me, twice minimum wage to work with him. And we worked hard. I mean, he would get up, he would pick me up at 6:00 in the morning. We'd either be picking up supplies or whatever, and we'd be on the job site by 8 a.m. And there would be nights that we would work until dark because he wanted to get done because we wanted to start the next job the next day, and the supplies were already there waiting for us. And I made lots of money. And he spent the entire summer telling me, don't do this for a living. I mean, I worked side by side with him. He taught me all kinds of things. And the thing he taught me the most was, you need to get your education, because he goes, my knees are shot, but I have no health insurance, so I can't get them fixed. Yet I have to climb up and down this ladder every day because this is how I have to provide for my family. And then it was a summer job because as soon as it got cold, there weren't that many siding jobs for him to do. So he would travel to Florida and live in a hotel and put siding on down in Florida and send the money back to his wife and kids in Ohio. And then he would show up next spring. And he said, you don't want to have to live like that. And if you get an education and you wear nice clothes to work and you work with your brain instead of your body, your brain usually doesn't fall apart as quickly as your body does. Because, I'm 16 years old. And the author of this article was 15 when he was digging ditches. You're making money. Same thing. I quit after, I got tired of college. I quit college, went to work in a warehouse, making good money. Again, surrounded by 40-year-old men whose backs were breaking, whose bodies were falling apart. And they looked at me and they said, you've got 2 years of college in? You dummy, get back to school and get done. Do you want to be like us? Look at us. Our fun in life is to run and get a bag of McDonald's and go back to the break room and play cards for an hour during our lunch break. That's what we have to look forward to every day. You need to get out of here if you have that chance. So that's why, because that's what motivated me to go back to school, because it was like, I quit college because it was like, I don't know really what I want to do. And look, I'm 20 years old. I can make money doing this. And wow, I can afford a new car and I can have nice clothes and I can go to the movies every Friday night. And these 40-year-old men looked at me and said, and that's all you're ever going to be able to do if you stay here. And there's more to life than doing that. So that's why I picked it. It was very personal. Just it shows the value, you know, of older generations, of the older people telling younger people, value your education. You don't want to have to work hard your whole life. Nothing wrong with hard work, but you don't want to have to be down here digging this ditch when you're 45 years old, knowing that for the next 20 years, you got to keep digging that ditch because this is the only way you can provide for you and your family.
Well, that was the point that part of what the author said, you know, he realized was that, I mean, he gets to leave after the summer and he's young and he's going to go on to other stuff, but the 40-year-old doesn't, right? And so part of the pacing is that there is always going to be another ditch to dig. And if I get this one done super fast, then I'm going to be more worn out for the next ditch that has to be dug. And I'm already 40, you know, I've been digging ditches my whole life. So there's a lot of different.
And when the snow starts to fall in the winter, you still got to get down in there and dig a ditch.
Yep.
And the ground is frozen.
And it's harder and yeah, on it goes, right? So, there's different ways to look at it. I think part of the reason that we put these together was because they speak to that idea of hard work comes in multiple forms. Efficiency isn't the answer to everything, right? And there's a lot of people out there that are very interested in making money off of the notion that efficiency is. And the sooner that you follow that path of find something that's going to make you happy in life, right? And make time for the things that bring you joy. Because it is, you know, it's difficult because we resist, well, we got to get stuff done, you know. But then you also think about, why do you have to get stuff done? For what reason do you need to get this stuff done? Well, because there's other stuff I need. Yeah, but why, right? What is the end result of this? To make money. Okay. Well, what are you going to do with that money? Well, I'm going to buy a house because that'll make me happy. Okay. So the money doesn't make you happy, but it's, as we've talked about, it's the things that you can do with it. So why do we then insist on this idea that the getting of things done makes us happy? You know, sure, there's some joy and satisfaction in completing tasks, and we can all acknowledge that, but it has a lot to do with what are the tasks that you're completing. And if you do all these tasks, but you don't, in the name of getting the task done, you put off all the stuff, the other stuff that you want to do, you're never going to be very happy because you're always going to feel left empty, right? And that's like the whole putting off reading thing. You know, I used to be really diligent reading before bed every night, and I've gotten back to that. And I'm glad that I have, because I am more satisfied when I make the time to do that, you know, because it's something that I like doing. And rather than trying to think about the whole time that I'm reading, oh man, there's all these other things I need. It's like, yeah, but you know, there's always going to be things. And this is something that's important to me. So, and to your point, Lance, that's how we have to look at these things, because if we don't look at, then what happens is you get to the end of your life, and it's like, man, all these things that were important that I never did, you know, you're not going to be sitting there thinking about the list from 10 years ago and the 2 things of the 8 that you didn't get done, you know. That's not what you're going to be thinking about at the end of your life, is that one list from whenever, you know, that's not what you remember. What you do remember is, I didn't spend enough time seeing my kids or seeing my grandparents or going to baseball games or whatever, you know, that's what you're going to think about. Or that you did spend enough time doing those things, you know, that you're happy that you got to do these things in life and that you made time for these things, and on and on and on, right? So that's the question that you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to remember, you know? And I guarantee you that if I asked you to tell me just from a year ago, a list of 10 things that you had to do and what are the things you got done and the things that you didn't, you couldn't tell me, you know, from memory. Maybe you got it written down somewhere, you know, real perverse like that. Keep all those old lists and go back and agonize over the stuff you didn't get done. Don't